So basically, the nice thing about arranging is that you can make something completely your own. Because it's nice if you're doing a project and you take an arrangement from online, you play it straight through, do the recordings, get it done. Yay, I submitted the project, done with that. But with arranging it, you can make it completely your own. An analogy I came up with, it's kind of like humans. It'd be weird if we were all just the same person. There'd be no difference. It'd be the same thing over and over with no change, and it wouldn't be interesting at all. And with arranging, that makes it interesting. So I'm going to use one of my tracks as an example. I'm going to do Another Day of Sun, which is one of my favorites that I've done. So the basics to arranging, if you think of it again like a human, you kind of think of it like you're building a person or building a house, something like that. So you need the skeleton of it. And the skeleton, in my mind, is the melody and the chords, and maybe a drum beat if you're feeling it. So most pop songs that you would probably do have a drum beat. That's pretty basic. So for Another Day of Sun, the melody at let's start it. I'm gonna start at this chorus over here. And I'm assuming you guys can't hear this because for some reason I can never like actually share audio. And if you have questions, unmute yourself and just shout them out. Don't wait until the end because you might forget. So basically, to get the melody down, you can either like of whatever song you're doing to get the melody, you can either look it up for like some tutorial on how to play it, or you can just transcribe it by ear. Basically, if you're trying to get the melody down for a song, you can either look it up and figure out how to do it from that, or you can like sit down at a piano or sit down at MuseScore, which is what I use, and just write it out and figure it out by ear, which is what I like doing because it challenges myself a little bit. So the other part of the skeleton, in my mind, is the chords. And at the beginning of this, I just have to like click on those because you guys can't hear it at all. If you have, let's say, like 4 tracks in your multi-track, and you want chords, a melody, and drums, that works perfectly fine. You can have 3 parts playing the chords. So let's say the first chord here is an A flat major chord. So I would have, is a flat major chord. I need to set this to concert pitch so I can actually see this properly. That makes much more sense. So first chord here, A flat major. I have an A flat in the bass, which I MIDI program. So not everything needs to be you playing it. So you can use some of the skills you took from the video game project with the MIDI we all did, and then apply that to your arrangements. Like in the one I'm doing now, it is so MIDI focused. I've spent like a few days doing it. There's a lot. So MIDI is not a bad thing to use. So when you're making the chords, you can literally have 3 parts, and that's it. You get a full chord. So on this A flat major chord, it's A flat there, C there, E flat there. Easy enough. Next chord is B flat, D, F. Easy. So all you need to do to get the chords is either you try to listen really closely and figure it out. And most pop songs are based off of 4 chords. The 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, and the 6 chord. And that might be like, Evan, what the heck are you talking about? That's like music theory. The very easy thing to do with this is go over to this wonderful website called, which one is it? Guitar Tabs. This is wonderful. So the chords for this, I just looked up La La Land chords, and Guitar Tabs is usually like the first thing that comes up. And it shows all the words to the song, where the chords land in it, and then you can easily just say, oh, okay, it's an F minor 7 chord initially. When you start on the bum bum ba dum bum bum, that melody, initially it's F minor 7, so you go over to where that melody is, and you would put in an F minor 7 chord. Now, for this part, I wasn't really feeling like doing whole notes here, because I wanted to be more of like a swing feel, because it's actually up-tempo swing. That's the nature of the song. So for this part, I just had a walking bass line, a drum set, and a sax playing. If I had a piano, then I might put in F minor 7. But for the bass, I just walked the bass line along that chord, very basic, like along a pentatonic scale. And actually, a lot of the things in this song we've learned in jazz. So like the chord progression is a 2-5-1 for anyone in jazz who knows what that is. The bass line, you just go up like a pentatonic scale. But basically, moving on with that, you can use the chords from websites like this. You can use it from like YouTube videos, their tutorials, and kind of base it off of that. And that gives you a good skeleton and a structure of it. So you go all the way through the song. This one was kind of lengthy, to say the least. where you can put in the chords like there. Right here, what I did with this part that's highlighted, what I did is I listened really closely to the song Another Day of Sun a lot, and I noticed that there were some piano hits that were really, really quiet, but you could still hear them. And the rhythm was 1, 2, 3, 4, bum, 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 bum. So I took those piano hits and I put chords to them. So with this one, I have that on C, I have that in A flat. So I believe this was on an F minor chord. So this is actually probably a better example of like putting the chords into the actual song. So I have the bass line still walking in F minor 7 here, and then I have these two saxes here. They just do some hits on chord tones. And since my sound isn't sharing for some reason, I'm not going to sing it. I'm not a great singer. But it basically like kind of fills it up a little bit. And with this style, there are a lot of, in jazz, like horn hits where they just go like bop, bop, ba up, something like that. So with this, it doesn't always work to just do whole notes. In pop songs, that works a lot of the time. So, and for anyone who just joined us, if you have questions, just unmute and shout them out, because I can't really see chat right now because I'm in like different tabs and all that. So, what else is there? What else? I'm trying to find a spot where I use just like long chord tones, and I think I might know a decent spot to look. Okay, this is a decent spot. So here I did a little, I think I pulled this part from another arrangement that I saw. It was like an online jazz band arrangement of Another Day of Sun, and this bum 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 that I used in the alto and the tenor, that was I just pulled that, easy enough. And what you can do actually with arranging is you can literally go over to YouTube, and this is like if you're writing out ideas or you're starting and you need to figure out like, okay, I have this blank palette on MuseScore or Smart Music Compose or whatever it is. What the heck do I do? I'm scared. That's like the scariest part, when it's just blank and you don't know what to do. So what you can do to get some inspiration, I guess, but to get some ideas in your mind, go to YouTube, look up a cover of whatever song you're doing. And I think, because I was doing it on sax, I pulled a lot from this one. I think I pulled a little bit from this one, and then I'm not sure where the, I think it was this one. This one I pulled a lot from, because I just love the style of that. And at this point, I wasn't like deep into jazz harmony, so I didn't like do a lot with that, and that involves like doing seventh son like harmonies and all that, and doing chord extensions, but that's a whole thing, and I'm not going to start on that. So back to like how you fill in the arrangement. So with this section, I had a lot of just a lot of chord tones filling it up, and I kind of actually did that with the melody while two other saxes were playing another melody on top of that. They were playing bum 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 ba bum bum bum. They were playing that melody, and then I had these two saxes playing another melody, the bum bum bum, and that just filled it up. It created chords within the melody. So what you can do when you're arranging, the most like, in my mind, basic thing you can do that works really well for pop songs, put in a melody. Well, first you would actually create the score with like 4 parts maybe. For me, I would do like 2 alto saxes, 2 tenor saxes, a drum set, maybe a bass. So basically the instrumentation of this. It's like very basic, but it works. And if you're going for, I want to arrange it and put a spin on it, but not like spend a billion hours doing it, all you got to do, write the melody in one part, write the chord tones. And all that takes is just looking up the chords and saying like, haha, yes, I am going to put that in some creative way. And you can just do whole notes, because that works in pop, or since this is like more of a jazz style, just little horn stabs in there works really well. So other parts of creating the skeleton for the arrangement is like the drum beat. And for this, I would go back to YouTube and I would look up Another Day of Sun drum cover. And I would maybe pull some ideas from this guy. The ones with more views are typically better. So I pull from maybe this guy, probably not like these. So you kind of just like look around, see what you like and some ideas you can take and kind of incorporate them and change them a little bit. So that's all it really takes to the skeleton: a melody, chords, some harmony if you're really feeling it. I think I had some harmony here. This I had on thirds, and then I had like, it's called contrasting motion, and I'll just cover that really shortly. Contrasting motion is basically if you have a line that's ba-da-dum-bum, it's generally going down. And what you would do in contrasting motion is you would have another line that's harmonizing it going up. So instead of ba-da-da-dum, it would be ba-dum-bum-bum, you have one going down and one going up, and that kind of creates some more motion in it and makes it more interesting. So that's a little just like fun harmony tip. And when I'm actually harmonizing, I think very vertically. There are two ways of doing it. You can think horizontally, which is write one part in all the way through, write another part in all the way through, write another part in all the way through. And that is very hard to do. I think it was Thad Jones, this great jazz composer, he was able to do that amazingly. He was able to just write out an entire alto sax one part, write out an entire alto two part, and everything would align to be amazing. I like doing it vertically because then I can make it fit into the chord more and maybe add some extensions. So with this, which one is this? This is an A flat major chord, it looks like. So this is this concert pitch? Oh wait, that's after the key change. Okay, so that's actually another thing you can do. You can just like change keys. Even if the song that you're doing doesn't have a key change, you can just be like, hey, I'm gonna change keys on you real quick. And changing keys always makes something more interesting. People are like, oh wow, that's cool. So that's a little like tip in there too. So you pretty much have this skeleton covered. And just to summarize it basically, melody, chord tones, harmony if you're feeling it, and a drum beat. Easy enough. So then you're like, okay, cool. Well, now it's basically like every other arrangement that I've seen. It's just the same thing where you play the same melody over and over. Not interesting. How do I make it my own? Because making it your own makes it cool. And you don't really know what to expect if you make it your own. People listening, they can still sing along to it fine, but they don't know like what kind of harmony you'll use, what kind of chord changes you might use, what kind of like key change you might use. Heck, like I've done a time signature change in one. It was on the most wonderful time of the year, and I switched it from 3/4 into 4/4. So instead of "it's the most wonderful time of the year," instead of that, I did bum bum ba da bum ba da bum. I just put in the swing of 4/4. So that's an easy way to change it. Just like switch the time signature, switch the key signature, anything like that. So putting your own spin on it. This opening, I actually, let's see. I'm trying to remember how the actual song goes. The actual song starts with just one girl in her car with a piano track playing this same melody. And if you've seen La La Land, you probably noticed it's the bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum 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 ba dum ba dum, that melody. So it opens with a girl in her car singing that melody while a piano plays that same melody over it. With this, I wanted it to kind of be like almost like flowing, where it kind of like starts it and creates the motive of bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum. So that's why I put the chord tones in, and that's not in the actual song. That's one of my own twists on it. I put chord tones in immediately to give kind of like a whoo, where's this going feel, you know? And depending on like how loud you have the chord tones, it can be very like commanding and upbeat, maybe like even like bass droppy kind of if you're reaching like the climax of a song. But depending on how you use chord tones and the dynamics of them, they can do anything for you basically. So never a bad option to do chord tones. So back to putting the spin on it. This entire section here was me putting a spin on it. The cowbell right here, which I programmed in through MIDI into Logic when I was doing this with the audio. The cowbell I pulled from the song. That's straightforward. You can't not have a cowbell if it's in the song. That's a fact. So basically, here I did bum, 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 bum. And I think that was something I pulled a little bit from that big band arrangement that I saw of it. Because that arrangement had like complicated jazz harmony, and I was like, I'm not going there yet. I don't know how to do that very well. So basically, for this section, I just wanted chords in there somehow, but not in the same whole note way, because the whole notes were cool, but at this point when the second one came in, the second line of bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum, when the second line of that came in, I was like, okay, I want it to change because you don't want it to get boring. Otherwise, people are just gonna like, when is this going to end? Any day, not ending. Okay, now I have to listen to this. So you want to make it interesting, and changing how you do the chord tones is a fantastic way of doing that, because the melody you can like embellish it if you want, but you don't have to. That takes like a bit of practice, but changing the chords and how that works is very, very, very simple. So I just did bump, 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 kind of like some jazz hits in there, like, you know, like the style suggests. So then for this section, I'm kind of just like breaking down section by section of like the twists I used on it. This drum beat is not a completely traditional swing beat. So in reality, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 da. That's the snare part. So that part's my own spin on it. I just like sung that snare part and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I programmed it in. And I kept using that over and over and over and over and over. And that's like a lot of arranging pop songs, honestly. Copy and paste works fantastically because that's what a lot of pop is. You just like have a verse, and because we're playing instruments where you can't sing, like all you have to do is copy and paste because it's the same rhythm, same notes, and all that, unless they like change it a little bit. But here is another spot I used a little bit of inspiration, you could say, from that big band track, where that harmony I think I took from that, or I had like a flat third or whatever it was. So easy ways to put a spin on something, change how the chord tones are done. Whole notes here, horn hits here. Easy enough. And if you're doing pop, just do whole notes. It works fine. Unless you're like really feeling like you want to just go at this arrangement and just make it like complicated and cool and spend a lot of time on it, go ahead. For my Pirates of the Caribbean multi-track, I think it was 16 saxophone parts and 5 percussion parts. And I spent so long arranging that, and I couldn't just come up with all the harmonies in my head because they were very specific to the song. So I had to pull from I had to pull from this one arrangement I found online that was technically for jazz band, but it really wasn't. So you can pull a lot from online. It works perfectly. And you can still put your own spin on it with like how the chords work, even how the melody works. You can create your own bridge section. I don't think I did a lot with like changing the actual bridge in this one, but in Radioactive that I did, when there's the bridge that's like, oh gosh, how does that go? Okay, anyway, so where the bridge usually is in Radioactive, I just completely took that out and wrote my own thing in, where I came up with I still went off the chords that were in the song, so you can literally just copy and paste your chord tones in. Easy enough. And then you can just write your own melody over it, kind of like that melody writing project you did, I think, was that first try, I think? I don't know. So, there's a lot you can do. It might seem overwhelming at first, but it's actually like once you really start to get into it and kind of get the groove of just like arranging and putting a spin on something, it's not incredibly difficult. And this little part right here, I know you guys can't hear it, but it's like I'm so good at singing. So that little part there is actually something Mr. Shervy, I believe, wrote for Cabaret a couple of years ago. And I have that by muscle memory pretty much. So I was like, that's a cool lick. And this part right there was the actual melody to that. And I took, I think I harmonized it at that point there. So this part was a harmony. That part was direct copy and paste from the tenor part. So this little riff right there, I took from Mr. Shervy, and I harmonized it a little bit. And again, harmonizing it is as simple as looking at the chord you're on. So this one I think would be, gosh, what would that be? I think that'd be E flat 7, if I'm correct. But I might have had function as a 6 chord. So, actually, C minor. So, it's as simple as really just looking at the notes and seeing how they can fit into the chord. So, like, here, this is like the seventh of a chord. So, if I were to, like, really go deep into jazz harmony, I would probably have written, like, a G there or something, an E there, and then a C there. So, I would just change that a little bit. But at that point, I wasn't, like, deep into that. So, I was kind of, like, clueless. So, putting a spin on it for that part where you're kind of like doing some interesting licks in there that aren't necessarily from the song. In my mind, the easiest way to do that is just look at what other people have done and take a lick from them and maybe change it if you want, maybe don't. And sit down at like a piano, a keyboard, and just like try to play it and figure out how it goes, and then you can program it in really easily. So, other ways you can change an actual song. I don't think I have it up right now. And it would probably take a while to actually download the file on this computer. So I think for the ending here, what I did, I went with a bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum. Well, I did a little sax solo over it in this part right there. So what's highlighted is a little sax solo. Bum, 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 bum. And for that, I once again did the tactic of look at what other people have done, draw inspiration from that, and then change it. So the idea of doing like a long note and then a little lick in there to another long note was what that jazz arrangement did, the big band version of it. And I was like, that's okay. But I don't want to just exactly copy that because once again, you can't say like this is completely mine. I used another person's arrangement of it, and that's okay if you use another person's arrangement and you really like it. That's not bad at all. I just realized I've had my TV on this entire time, so if you guys have been hearing that in the background, I am terribly sorry about that. So, all you really gotta do when you're arranging, if I'm just doing a brief synopsis of it, and you guys can like I'll save some time for questions if you have them. If not, I'll let you go. But a brief synopsis of arranging stuff. If I were to summarize it very quickly, it would be put up 4 parts for your instrument, a melody, 3 chord tones, and a drum set. Easy enough. You look up the chords. Ultimate Guitar Tabs is perfect for that. You look up covers that other people have done for like specific parts for like drum sets if you're trying to find that. Look up drum covers, and I cannot stress enough how helpful it is to just like listen to what other people have done and figure out what you can do with that, because then you have so many other sources you can pull from, so then people aren't like, oh well, he pulled directly from the actual song Another Day of Sun and then just changed it a little bit. If I pull from 2 different drum covers, a big band arrangement, 2 different sax covers, and the actual song, I have 6 different things to work with that I can put into my arrangement. And then even with that, I can still make it my own by changing the rhythm, by changing how chords are done, changing the melody, changing the key, changing the time signature. There's so much you can do to change it. So I hope this has been helpful. If you guys have any questions, unmute yourselves and hit me with it. Do you use other apps for arrangements? I like swear by MuseScore pretty much for arranging. It's very, very simple for me, honestly, because when you're writing in a melody, all you gotta do, if you know the shortcuts with it, like if you press 5, it's a whole note. So if I were to write in the bum 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 ba dum ba dum ba really quick, I could go bum 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 bum, and I'm not a genius or anything. I'm not super fast, and I haven't written this in a while. All you gotta do for like MuseScore, in my mind, you just have to like learn what number corresponds to what note, and then just like you literally type the letter on the keyboard that you want to do. And Smart Music Compose works okay. For me, it's a bit finicky just because I'm so used to MuseScore. But MuseScore is a free app. You can download on anything. That's what I 100% recommend for arranging. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate you guys stopping in, listening to me talk about things. So I'll let you go now. Have a good day. I will see you all tomorrow.